Well, hello everybody. My name is Toby Slough, and I'm the pastor of Cross Timbers Community Church in Argyle, Texas, an area just outside the Metroplex. And I think if I had one thing to talk to church leaders about, it would definitely be about creating a culture of generosity in your church. You know, one of the things I think is true for all of us is we are living in times here in America where the church across this nation has an opportunity to make a difference in people's lives like never before. I'm sure in whatever area of the country here in the States you find yourself, you're a lot like we are. Lots of folks who are out of work, lots of people who are losing their homes, lots of people struggling. For us here at Cross Timbers, it's not just the unemployed, but it's the underemployed, people who have lost their jobs and are now working at much less, for much less pay than they've gotten in the past. And I know that over the last couple of years, our heart has been to create a culture of generosity here at Cross Timbers, to create an atmosphere where people understand that a part of being a follower of Christ is you help your brother and sister in need. You know, I can think of no greater story than what happened here at Cross Timbers about 6 months ago. I was sitting in a little breakfast place, really kind of a dive, a hole in the wall, my wife and my daughter and I eating breakfast. And the tables were so close together, I heard a man behind me on the phone telling one of his friends that the bus had dropped him off for a job interview, but the bus had been late, and where he is going was the wrong place to go, and so he was going to drink a cup of coffee and walk to the mall a couple of miles away, and that he was going to try to find a job there because obviously this job wasn't going to work out. And I was fresh off a board meeting at church and all the challenges that we were facing in these difficult financial times, and then I looked at my wife and she looked at me, and we both felt like the Lord was speaking that, you know, we needed to help this guy. And so as we got up to leave, my wife and daughter were in another car. They left, and I paid for the guy's breakfast. And then I went over and said, "Sir, I'm sorry, I wasn't eavesdropping, but I heard that you're having a hard time finding a job, and the mall's a couple miles away, and it's raining. Could I give you a ride?" And he was a little bit uncomfortable, but he said okay. And so he got in the car, and we started to drive, and he began to tell me his story. He kept asking me where I worked, and I didn't want to tell him, so I didn't want him to treat me weird. But he was just telling me about how tough it had been for him. And finally, at the end, he said, "Where did you say you work?" And I told him I was a pastor at a church. And he knew the church and knew some people that went to church here. And he said, "I can't believe the pastor's giving me a ride." And I'll never forget, we got in front of the mall. And he looked at me, and I looked at him, and I said, "Randy, I just want to tell you something. I didn't bring you here today because I'm a pastor. I brought you here today because I think God put our tables by each other this morning. And I kind of have a feeling that you're out on God, or you're wondering if God's out on you. And I just wanted to help you today so you would know that God wanted to be there for you." And I kind of got teary-eyed, and he got teary-eyed. And I drove to my house. I sat in my garage, and I felt like I heard the Lord speak. This is my heart for your church. And so here at Cross Timbers, we decided that we were going to begin a journey together, a journey of taking what God has given us and pouring it into the lives of people. And we took the reserves that we had built up over the last year or so for difficult times, and we decided to give it away. And so we did things like we called up all the single moms on a Sunday morning on Mother's Day, and we blessed them with some money. We prayed over them. We on Easter Sunday gave away our entire Easter offering and then some to organizations and to visitors that came to our church. And it was interesting to watch the response of the church as over those next few weeks and months here at Cross Timbers, people's awareness has been raised of the needs around them and the church's responsibility to respond. I think my favorite thing that we've done so far, I know lots of churches have done this in the past, this isn't new with us, but we had everyone after the service line up, and every family unit at Cross Timbers was given $50. We told them, "We're giving you back the offering today. We want you to go bless the life of somebody. All we want you to do is let us know what you did with it." We set up a blog, and over 300 stories came in on our blog about ways people used that $50 to bless the lives of other people. And now, almost 4 months later, I still get emails on a regular basis from people from our church that are helping other people. And so I think we've learned some things. The first thing I think we've learned is this: if you want a generous culture in your church, you must intentionally be generous as a church. I mean, here's the elephant in the room that nobody wants to talk about. Lots of us as pastors get really defensive about how everything that comes in here goes to help people. And I do believe that's true, but the fact of the matter is lots of people that sit out in our seats on Sundays in our community don't see it that way. They can't connect that the resources that they give are actually meeting people's needs. They think, it's kind of a self-involved kind of cycle there, and they're thinking that what they put in the plate just kind of helps keep the church going. It doesn't matter how many good things are happening in your church, because here at Cross Timbers, lots of great things have been happening, but I don't think people really make that connection. And so we had to go public with our generosity. We couldn't just open up the benevolence budget and then do it behind the scenes. We had to do some things publicly, and so we began to do things like call single moms to the front of the church, pray over them, and give them a gift, a financial gift. On Easter, we made a commitment that we were going to give our entire Easter offering away, and we ended up giving away over $300,000 in one day to some organizations that were feeding people, and then to some of the visitors that came that day. And what we began to see is that as we went public with our generosity, the church began to be more generous. I think my favorite thing that we've done so far is what I know lots of churches have done in the past. We had everyone line up after a service, and we gave every family unit that came that day a $50 bill and told them to go out in their community and be a blessing to somebody else. And the only condition was you had to come back and tell us what you did. And we set up a blog where we got hundreds of responses. And to watch people take that $50, take the offering back, if you will, and to look for creative ways out in their community to be a blessing to other people was really amazing. And here we sit 3 or 4 months after that special Sunday. I'm still getting emails. Got one just this week about how a family's life was changed because they had found a creative way at a Walmart down the street to bless the life of somebody else. And so now it's not just the $50 we gave them, but they're taking some of their resources and they're pouring them back into the community. I know lots of folks have said, well, what about the offering here if people are doing that? I just believe God works it out in His kingdom. And if we, led by God, are able to create a generous culture, and people are truly generous, when there's legitimate needs, they're going to give to them. And so that's been really important for us. The second thing I've learned, I think, is that people are looking for ways not simply to give money, but to give of themselves to serve their communities. Dino Rizzo has taught me a lot about this as I've read his book and spent some time with him, but we're beginning to play that out in reality here. I know that one rainy Saturday morning, we had an event called Fix My Ride, where single moms and people who were down on their luck could bring their cars, and we'd fix them at no charge. And on that rainy day, I think we fixed almost 90, if not over 90 cars. And as I walked out there and talked to some of the people who were getting their cars fixed, not only was I touched by their gratitude for how the church was tangibly meeting their needs, but what blew me away was how excited these mechanics were. I mean, some of them were more emotional than the people who were getting their cars fixed, just being appreciative of the opportunity they had to take their time, use their expertise to bless somebody in the kingdom. And so at all of our campuses, we've got our campus leaders looking for ways to involve people in serving and loving their community. I think that's a key part of building a generous culture. And then finally, I'd say this. I just believe that for us, for Cross Timbers, that it was time for us to begin to do what we were calling the church to do. We had a reserve fund. We had some money that had been placed back that I thought was responsible stewardship and leadership. But when there was a need in the community, then we used that reserve to begin to bless the lives of people. Because if, as a believer in Christ, if I had a savings account and there was a real need that came before me, I think I should take out of that savings account, bless somebody's life, and trust God to take care of me. We're learning a lot around here about trusting God. We're learning a lot about stepping out in faith, and we're learning that, we like to say here, God's got a bigger shovel. That as we pour it out, God pours it in, and people are being changed. So we obviously haven't figured this whole thing out. We're learning and growing, but it's been an exciting season. And I think it's going to propel us to new places of ministry and service and outreach and evangelism and discipleship in our little corner of the world. So I'm really excited, really passionate about that, and that's what I want to share with you today. So take care and God bless.